Well, hello, we're finally here. It's me and Rebecca Poirier, the City of Torrance City Clerk, and we're finally ready to have our Learn with the League. Yay! We had some technical difficulties, and for those of you who are doing Facebook Live, this is, unfortunately, I have to admit, last week the same thing happened and I forgot. You have to use Google Chrome to log on to this Facebook Live when we use BeLive TV. I don't know if they're related. I'm assuming they are, but that's what it is. And the little hint to do this is way at the bottom. You have to scroll down. So for those of you who don't use Chrome, you'll have to use Chrome to do this Facebook Live stuff. Anyhow, we're going to get started with our interview. Welcome, Rebecca. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Athena. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so the League of Women Voters started Learn with the League a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago now, and so we want to educate the public on the ways that government works. And I thought, given that a lot of cities are having elections and it's a big election year, we should find out what exactly does it take to throw your hat in the ring. So that's what Rebecca, who's a city clerk, is going to talk to us about. So Rebecca, first of all, I think you're actually an elected official, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and is that true of every city, or
no?
Elected?
In the past, there was about 50% city clerks elected and 50% were appointed. Now it's more common to have appointed city clerks rather than elected city clerks.
Okay, interesting. So can you tell us a little bit? I mean, I'm embarrassed to say I thought a clerk was like you did paperwork, you know, like a clerk. So obviously it's way more than that now that I've learned. So why don't you share what a city clerk does?
A city clerk is the elections official for the city. So we administer the elections. We handle everything for the local elections. We bring resolutions to council. We have the elections called. We council sets candidate regulations. We accept and process initiative petitions, referendums, recalls. We maintain election history, and we are the filing officer for the California Fair Political Practices Commission for campaign reports and for conflict of interest filings. In addition to those duties, we prepare council agenda covers, we administer agenda distribution, we administer action minutes and summary minutes for city council meetings and for commissions. We staff the City Hall switchboard. We post council, board, and commissions agendas according to the Brown Act. We post bids, and we receive and open the bids publicly. We process all contracts, agreements, and franchises for the city. We process ordinances and resolutions for the city. Ordinances are city law. Resolutions are city policy. We codify the Torrance Municipal Code, so whenever the city passes an ordinance, most ordinances are codified into our code. And we maintain a roster of public officials. We also maintain and update the records retention schedule. So that tells city workers what records need to be maintained permanently, what records we may destroy, what period we have to keep them before we can destroy them. And that's all set by government code. We also receive claims, subpoenas, and other legal services on behalf of the city. We process California Public Records requests, and we adhere to the California Public Records Act when we process those. We administer receipt of requests for proposals. We maintain a conflict of interest for the city. So employees, commissioners, elected officials have to file a conflict of interest, Form 700, and we update that code of conflict of interest biannually. We maintain a MADI Act, which is a list of, I was just going to tell you, it's a list of board and commission vacancies, and we are required per the government code to do that. We're required to post it by December 31st of every year. However, the city of Torrance has always updated it. Whenever we have an update, we repost it all year long. So that way we're always in compliance. Mm-hmm. We administer the commissions process, starting out with the commission certification training, receiving applications, and then packaging up and providing the council with a packet and bringing a council item staff report to council so they can make the commission appointments.
Wow, that is a lot of stuff.
And we are the record keeper for the city, so we're in charge of all the city records.
So anything to do with record?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot of stuff. So how big is your staff for the city of Torrance?
I have 8 individuals, 9 including myself.
Okay. And do you know how many commissions there are?
There are currently 12 commissions.
Okay.
There's 11 commissions and one youth council. So the youth is called a council instead of a commission.
I see. Okay.
And we also have a few internal boards. Sorry.
Okay. So that's okay. So you're managing all the paperwork around that. And every week, is there a city council meeting every week?
We meet every Tuesday with the exception of we do not meet the 5th Tuesday of the month or the Tuesday after a Monday holiday.
I see.
Or in an instance where council may be going to a conference, we may go dark the week that they're at the conference.
I see. So there might be maybe 48 meetings or 46, somewhere in there?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of meetings. And so your staff and you're in charge of posting all that stuff on the website. And are there paper files still? These days there's paper files?
We still currently are paper driven. However, we did just recently take an item to council and they approved for us to have an electronic content management system. And what that means is we will be scanning and digitizing the records, and they will be available online for the public.
Oh, wow. That's going to be cool.
Yeah. It's a huge job, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So you're in charge also of keeping all the records. Do you mean all the way into the past? Like how far into the past do these records go?
To the incorporation date, 1921.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we do have historical records as well.
Yeah, what?
Historical records from before the city was incorporated.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so I think I heard you once speaking about your one of your goals was to kind of move the city of Torrance more into the digital age, like to preserve some of these records that may be old, fragile paper, that kind of thing. You're trying to digitize all that?
Yes, that's correct. So we have all the city deeds. Some of them are still on the old-fashioned onion paper. So they're very fragile. So we'll be scanning those. That's that paper that you can kind of see through, but it's...
Oh, okay. I'm like, onion paper.
Yeah, it's typed on with the typewriter, but it's that kind of paper that you can kind of see through.
Yeah, well.
So some of them are very fragile, and we'll be scanning all of the deeds, the city ordinances, the resolutions, and the minutes, and getting all of those online.
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit before we move on to if someone wants to run for office. So do any of the cities outsource the job of city clerk? Is that something that's done? Let's say if a city was super tiny, they may not have a whole lot to do, or is that possible?
They don't outsource the city clerk. Usually for a smaller city, either the city manager will be city manager / city clerk, or there's been some very interesting titles I've heard, like finance / city clerk, city administrator / city clerk. So some of the smaller cities, the city clerk may not be just city clerk. They'll be wearing another hat.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. And so every city has to have a city clerk to do all this stuff, right?
Yes, because so there are a lot of laws governing what we do, and it's important to adhere to them.
Sounds like it. And so City of Torrance manages its own elections? Because I think also I heard that some cities do outsource that to is it the county registrar, or someone else does it for them, right? The actual elections.
Yes, the City of Torrance is actually consolidated with the election. So there's two types of elections. There's a standalone election where the city actually runs the election completely themselves. And usually they hire a company that will help them come in and count the ballots. So the outside company would come in and publicly count the ballots, say in the council chambers. Quite a few years ago, before I started with the city took it to the voters, and the voters voted to consolidate with the county. So even though we're consolidated with the county, there's still a large portion of things that the city clerk actually handles. So we handle bringing the resolutions to the council, informing the council of the election dates, the filing requirements, deadlines that we have to call there's actually a certain date we have to call the election by. We prepare a candidate handbook. We make appointments with candidates. We sit down and meet with explain what's in it to run for a position. And during the nomination period, we also make appointments for them to come and file all their paperwork. There's a great deal of paperwork that's required to file to run. So we handle all the administration of that. And then the county, we're like the hostess, and then the county does the part where we send them the information, they print the candidate sample pamphlet, ballot sample pamphlet, and then they'll mail it out to registered voters, and then they'll mail the ballots. If you're a vote by mail person, they'll mail you a ballot, or you go to the polls and fill out your ballot there. But they do all that printing work for us.
Okay, I got it. So that's where I got confused. Okay.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and answer my first question, and then don't freak out. I'm not leaving. I'm just going to lower the blinds because, as you can see, the light's coming in on me. So, so if I decide to run for office, which I'm not, but if one were to decide to run for office, what are the steps? Like, tell me from the very beginning, what do I do first? I got it in my head. Yeah, I want to run. Now what do I do?
The very first step is to file a Form 501 candidate intention statement. And that's filed with the local elections official. So if somebody was interested in running for the city of Torrance, they would file that with my office.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so that was step one, filing the Form 501.
Yes.
And then how soon before the election do they do this? How, I don't know if I worded that right.
Yeah, they can do it up to 2 years prior to the election. It just all depends on when they want to start getting everything ready. So after they file their 501, they don't have to file anything else until they get donations in the amount of $2,000. Once they reach that $2,000 mark, then they would file a Form 410 it's a statement of organization, which establishes their campaign committee. And then on that, they'll send it to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State will give them an ID number, and then that also is where they open their bank account to put all their election donations in. And after that, there'll be filing requirements to file a campaign statement, which is a Form 460. And on the Form 460, that's where they'll claim all of their incoming donations, whether they're monetary or in-kind donations. So in-kind donations might be that someone offers to host a coffee. So they pay for the space, or they pay for all the coffee and donuts or whatever they're serving, and then they invite the public to come.
So is there, since we're talking about money, is there a limit in local politics? Is there a limit to how much money one individual could give that one candidate?
For the city of Torrance, yes, we have a campaign finance ordinance, and the maximum any single individual could donate to a candidate is $1,000.
Okay, well, that's quite a bit. These days, maybe not, but it's quite a bit. That would be a lot out of my pocket anyway. Okay, and so besides these forms, or what are the other requirements that we should know of?
The only other requirement is that they have to be a registered voter in the city 30 days prior to pulling nomination papers.
Oh, wow. So someone could move here and then run for office.
Correct. As long as it's 30 days prior to the opening of nominations.
Oh, that's interesting. So on any of these forms that you mentioned, 501, 401, 410, 460, any of those forms, do I have to disclose my assets, my income, my debts, if I've had a bankruptcy, a divorce, incarceration? Like, what types of questions are asked? Because that might put off some people, I think.
Those are specifically for campaign disclosures.
Okay.
So what you're getting into is actually a conflict of interest form, which is a Form 700. And the requirements for disclosure there are investments, real property, income, loans, business positions, incomes, and gifts.
Okay. So, and that's to determine if there's a conflict? Is that why they ask all those personal questions?
That's correct. To determine, you don't want your council person that has, let's say, a lot of stock in, for instance, Toyota. And then something about Toyota comes before the council. You want to know that so the council member can recuse themselves from making any decisions on that item. So that's the whole purpose.
Okay. And do you happen to know what would happen if, let's say, they did own Toyota stock and they did listen and maybe they voted favorably or even unfavorably? What would happen if it was just like nobody knew or didn't remember this guy's form or this gal's form? What would happen to them?
Well,
if they had a conflict and it wasn't caught.
That thankfully has never happened because we've usually council confers with our city attorney, and the city attorney will tell them whether they need to recuse themselves and leave the dais. So that has never happened that I'm aware of. So
do you know what would happen? Do you know what
would happen? I'm honestly not really sure.
Okay, probably a question.
I know there'd be public outcry.
Huh?
I said I know there'd be public outcry.
Yes, public outcry, which is sometimes worse than other punishment.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there a fee, or what types of fees are involved in filing and all these steps? What types of fees are involved in running for office, besides postcards and things like that outside of the
City of Torrance has no filing fee. So the City of Torrance wanted to keep the election so that it would encourage more people to run. So there's no filing fee, but to run a campaign for city council or mayor, it does take approximately $50,000. So it would be a lot of raising funds for those positions. And council gets paid a whopping $100 a month, plus a car allowance of $446. So it's not
a car allowance. Is that what you said?
Yeah, a car allowance. Yeah. So you're not going to get rich.
Yeah. For the whole year, they get $400.
No, a month.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, well that's pretty good.
But still, you're
$100 a month.
It's very low.
Yeah. Yeah. And then is there some kind of pledge or you mentioned certification earlier. So what are they being certified as knowing or having been trained for?
The commissions have a commission certification training, but for council candidates, we during the nomination period, when they file their nomination papers, we do give them an oath of office. They will, if they are elected, they will accept the oath, and then they're given the same oath that any government employee is given.
Interesting. Okay.
And then as far
as the one to give the oath?
Yeah, myself or my deputy give the oath at the time they file their nomination papers.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was the city attorney that gave them the oath or who gave them the oath, like who officially. Okay, that's interesting. And so when they're raising money, is there a place, or are there regulations against where you can do it or when you can do it? Are there guidelines to that?
Yes, in the government code, there is requirements that they cannot use public resources for their campaign. And then the City of Torrance has their own regulations, Ordinance 3701, that prohibits candidates from using city buildings and facilities to host campaign fundraisers. However, it excludes parkland, public sidewalks, and public streets.
So they can't use public land, but they can be in a park or on a sidewalk.
Right. So for instance, at our farmers market at Wilson Park, we have a free speech area. The candidates could book that free speech area, and they would be allowed to accept donations there.
Okay. And then on the sidewalk, that would be kind of tough to limit people, right? I mean,
right. So that's why
they hand you a check, now you're in trouble, you know. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Some of this is making sense to me. Okay. And I asked about how much someone can give. And so do they have to declare every dollar? Like, how does that, is there a minimum dollar amount that they have to declare on that donation form?
Every dollar.
Every dollar, wow.
How they would do it is anyone that contributes under $99, it's reported in a lump sum. If you donate $100 or more, your name and address goes onto the campaign statement. And it's typed out. It states whether you're an individual, whether it's your business donating the money. And then it has the total and the cumulative total. So an example, if you gave a candidate $50 this week, you would be in the lump sum. And then let's say a month from now, you gave that candidate $50 again. Then you would move into the statement part where your name and address would be listed on the form. And it would say, you gave $50 this time, and now you gave $50, so now it equals 100.
Right. So I see a little bit of a trickiness with that. So if you're having a coffee where people are donating money and they just like pass the hat and you throw money in,
They can't do that.
Do that, right?
No, they can't do
So
that.
this is not like church.
No. So
Okay.
we do.
I had to ask, because I would think that would be something you do, but that would be not good to do.
You have to keep track of every dollar that's donated to you. You have, even if they only give $1, you still need their name, and address. And then the city of Torrance has a requirement that you cannot accept more than $20 in cash. And we encourage all candidates to never take cash, to always get a check or money order or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this is eye-opening. Yeah, I think this is good stuff. Okay, so okay, and we talked about the paperwork. So what was the deadline? Because we just had our open time here to have candidates submit paperwork, and it just closed, right? So why was it that the time was extended? I thought we were ending March 9th, and then that time got extended, and that was something to do with candidates, right? So can you explain a little bit about what happened there with the rules?
Sure. So nominations opened on February 13th and closed on March 9th. However, during the nomination period, if an incumbent fails to file, that particular seat is extended. Mm. So we had an incumbent council member who did not file to run again. Mm. So the mayoral candidates, the city clerk candidates, and the city treasurer candidates closed on March 9th. The city council race was extended through March 14th.
And that's just,
it's just to encourage.
What's the thinking behind that?
It's the law that election law that we do that, and it's to encourage additional candidates, right, and to give an opportunity for others to come out and run. Sometimes when residents or see that incumbents are running, they may not throw their hat in the ring, but when they see an incumbent is not running, they will. Mm-hmm. So that's the purpose behind that, is to help others have an opportunity.
That makes sense. Okay, so now our election period is closed, and whoever was on the books March 14th, those are our official candidates for this go around, right?
That's correct. I've already submitted the certified list of candidates to the county.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So you send the certified list. Okay. So let's say someone did decide to run. They're on this list now, and then they decide they don't want to run. Let's say they want to back out, or whatever you want to call it in your official world over there in city clerk's office. They don't want to do it anymore. What do they do to tell you they don't want to do it?
Basically, they're on the ballot. They had until the close of nominations to withdraw their name.
Okay, so this is done. Okay. So, okay. So what is the number one thing that if of all the advice, and I'm sure you've got a lot of advice because you've seen, how long have you been in the city clerk's office? Because you were just elected not too long ago, but you've been there for a long time, right?
I started in the city clerk field in 2000. And wow. I worked my way up to different positions, and I came to the city of Torrance as the deputy city clerk. Mm-hmm. And then when our city clerk retired, I ran for her position and won.
Yay! So. Okay, good. Okay, so that's a long time. So of all these ups and downs and all these different people who ran and your own experience, what's the number one thing that you would recommend to any candidate that they should do, like the number one thing?
The number one thing, well, I would say for anyone interested in running for council would be to get involved in the city and community organizations, and also to become a commissioner, to get used to working on a commission with a 7-member body, and kind of prepare to be on council, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That would be my recommendation.
So I guess what you're saying is the practical experience is what you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. So to get used to collaborating with other members on the legislative body, and learn how to run a meeting, learn how to review agenda packets. It's kind of gives you a footing to have experience in doing that. Mm-hmm.
So would you say it's like a mini experience that trains you to be on council? Because I think council is more intense than a commission, as I understand it, is a narrow focus purpose body that advises the council? Is that what they do? Or
That's correct.
okay.
We do have a few commissions that are quasi-judicial, but for the most part, commissions are advisory to council. You are correct.
Okay.
But it gives you that experience of collaborating with other members of a legislative body, even if it's a more narrow focus. And I think it kind of helps you get a feel for what it would be like to be on council. It's not required though, but that would be my recommendation. And again, to get involved in community groups, get to know the community, just really being involved is important so that you know what's going on in the community and how the residents feel and their desires.
Kind of how they feel on different issues.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
That makes sense. So what, and this may be a kind of a strange question, but what do you think is the number one trait or personality type, or, you know, the kind of the intangible that makes a successful candidate?
That's a hard one. I would say I've had a lot of different types of people on council. I would say just somebody that's outgoing and just really has a desire to serve their community. That would be the number one trait. Desire to make their community a better place.
And that it comes through, hopefully. I've seen candidates that they don't express themselves very well, right? So
yes.
Okay. Let's see. So is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners on what you do or what the city clerk's office is like, or anything like that?
The city clerk's office strives to be helpful to the residents and to connect the residents with the services of the city. So that's actually our vision, is to be the heart and hub of the city, connecting the community with the services of the city. And I think that if somebody had an interest in how the government worked, you know, contact my office and we'll help you with what we can. And if we can't, we'll refer you to which department would be able to help you. That's what we're here for. A lot of people find the city clerk's office first, so we consider ourselves kind of the information hub.
So if someone wanted to find out something that could be in the records, you'd be the place, your office would be the place to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't see that we have any questions, so I'm just going to close us out here by saying we have elections coming up, and I think it's June 5th. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. For the City of Torrance council members and mayor. So we have 6 people that qualified, and now I learned certified as our candidates for 3 open seats, right? And then we have 3 people running for the mayoral position. And then the city clerk and treasurer are unopposed. So explain to me what that means. So you both put your hat in the ring and nobody ran against you and the book's closed. So what do you have to do now?
Well, I've still been invited to candidate forums to give a 2-minute speech, which is nice, because I would like to say all the things that I've done for the city in the past 4 years. But basically that means that no one's running against us, and to me that says the public has a lot of trust in us to run for our jobs again. So to be the city clerk or city treasurer, the only requirement is to be an elector of the city. And these positions actually are full-time department head positions, which is different than the mayor and city council positions. Mayor and council are considered part-time. So we're full-time department heads. We oversee
I don't know any of them who are part-time, but okay.
Well, it's technically considered part-time, but they put in full-time hours. That's why I said $100 a month is not that much.
Yeah.
But for us, for the city treasurer and myself, we are full-time department heads, and there is a lot of knowledge that is required to do this job. And running unopposed is very exciting.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have to be campaigning and doing your job, right?
Yes.
And if I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but last time when the previous clerk retired, there were like 4 people running for that position, right?
3 people, yes.
3 people. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay, and the treasurer surprises me that they're elected because it's kind of an accounting job, right? So
she does a lot of the city's investments, and I won't elaborate because I'm sure she does a lot of things that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
unaware of, just like people aren't aware of all the things city clerk does.
Right, right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Okay, so that's it for my interview with Rebecca. Thank you for joining me, Rebecca. It's been really cool talking to you today. And hopefully someone out there learned something with the league, right? Hopefully.
Right.
I learned
I
a
hope
lot,
so.
so I thank you. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, thank you. So unfortunately, Mark Warnick was supposed to be our speaker for tomorrow. He's a council person in the city of Lomita who is going to share, when we're able to get him on, what it's like to run for office and win, and also how the sometimes mayor, and that's just my lingo, it's a rotating mayorship that they have in the city of Lomita. And I really wanted to find out from him what he thinks the pros and cons are, because we have a mayor who's elected and that mayor is there for 4 years, right? So this is very different. They're there short term in that position, so I imagine there's good and bad about that. But Mark's unable to attend tomorrow, so we're going to reschedule him. If you'd like to join our mailing list is very easy to join. You would just text 444-999, enter keyword LWVTA along with your email address, and you'll automatically be added. So I thank you again for joining Learn with the League. See you next time.